Hello, welcome back. Today in this video, let us understand related to for each activity in Azure Data Factory. As you might be aware, if you are following this channel, we are explaining each and every activity in Azure Data Factory in great detail. So we would recommend you to check the playlist of Azure Data Factory in our channel to go through each and every activity in detail. And before proceeding, if you are new to this channel and haven't yet subscribed for this channel, we would recommend you to please subscribe and also press bell button for instant notifications. So let's get started. So for each activity in Azure Data Factory, actually it defines a repeating control flow in the Azure Data Factory or Synapse. So like specific to Azure Data Factory also, what it means is it is a repeating control flow. So it is very similar to what we do in any programming language. If you are familiar with any programming languages like Java, C, C++, or like .NET, all the programming languages or the scripting languages mostly will have a iteration using a for loop. So the same for loop, whatever we are using in the different programming language, we are calling it as a for each activity. For each activity here. So instead of actually programmatically writing the for each or for loop, here we are using activity for to do the same thing. Basically, we are doing the iteration using the for each activity here. So anything if you want to iterate, right? So you will use a for each activity, and this activity is used to iterate over a collection and execute specified activities in a loop. That means collection is nothing but an array here. So anything you pass it as an array, so that like that array will be iterated, because for each will work only on the data type array, right? So it doesn't make any sense to iterate over an integer or a string. It should be a for each should accept an array of integer or array of strings. And what exactly we will be using for each activity, like a real-time examples, right? You can iterate over a files in a particular given folder. Suppose there is a folder in your blob storage or data lake storage, so you want to iterate all the files one by one, so you can use a for each activity. Or if you have a scenario where you want to iterate a array parameter, suppose your array parameter is like say 1 2 3, you want to iterate all these 1 2 3 parameters in a sequential or say parallel execution, whatever it might be. So you will use a iterate using for each activity. And if you want to iterate over a config table, where you'll be having where you are storing the tables. Suppose you have a 10 tables, you want to copy all the 10 tables data as a file to your blob storage or a data lake storage, right? So you will have only one copy activity which is placed within a for each activity, so which takes input from the config table, and you can iterate over all the tables, and you can copy all the 10 tables data to your blob storage. So instead of using 10 copy activity, you'll be using only one copy activity which is placed in the for loop. And similarly, if you want to iterate the files or folders in the config tables, right, to do a copy activity or any kind of activity, you can do the same thing. So basically, for each activity is to do iteration of anything. Like you can use a copy activity inside for each. You can use if condition to kind of check any conditions, or you can use you can call the other pipeline, like you can call execute pipeline to call a child activity also, like iteratively, right? So, and next important thing is at the rate item. So when you are using for each activity, this is the most important to understand. So we will see this in demo in detail, but so keep this in mind. At the rate item is important thing you will be encountering when you are using a for each activity in Data Factory. So what it does is in any activity you create within the for each activity, you can reference the current item, right? So the current, this indicates the current item. Suppose like if you're using any programming language for I equals to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. If you're familiar with C, C plus plus, right, you will be using that iteration value, right? So that I what you are using, right, that is the current item. So similarly here, the item is nothing but a current item. So this, using this current item, you can refer the current value in the iteration. Suppose you are in like you are using 1 2 3, first iteration the value will be 1, second iteration the value will be 2, third iteration it is referring the third element of the array. So and so please note that array can be like this. as you can see, it will be enclosed in the square bracket with numeric values if you are giving the integer kind of array. And if you are using a string kind of array, right, you can give a table name, file name, or anything for that matter. You'll just give the square bracket but enclosed with the single quotes, and the comma separation is the important thing, so it will consider it as an array. So basically you can pass like this as a parameter, or you can pretty much create an array, like say you are using a get metadata, right? Get metadata will give the child items as an array, so that also you can use in the for loop. As you can see, we will be creating a new pipeline here to as part of this demo, and we will just give pipeline for as a name. And if you just see in the iteration controls, right, you can see a for each loop here. We will just drag and drop the for each loop. And before jumping to the complex scenarios, let us understand very basics of for each loop. So for each loop, basically, as you can see, there is a option of a sequential, or like if you check this, it will become a sequential. So you need to be very careful when you are selecting the sequential. I mean, not selecting a sequential, that means it will become a parallel execution. If there is any dependency that you are creating between each iteration, right, each execution, so then it is better to make it sequential. In real time, mostly it is better to have a sequential execution, right? Or if it doesn't have any dependency, right, if you are loading all the 10 tables, if you are loading 10 tables or 10 files which doesn't have any dependency, then you can make it parallel. So if you are making it parallel, say there are 100 tables you want to load, right? So loading all 100 tables might create an issue, because it might open 100 threads to kind of load all the 100 tables, right? So in that case you can use like batch of 10. So first it will take 10 tables, load it parallelly all the 10 tables. Next it will take in the next batch it will take 10 tables. It will be like 10 batch of 10 tables, right? So as of now I'm keeping it sequential. Okay. And the items, if you see, the items will always be a array value. Suppose it should be like 1 comma 2 comma 3. It will always be like this array values. Okay. And just for the demo sake, just to print a value, right, I'll just take a set variable here inside for each loop. And inside for each loop, when I'm in set variable, so I need to define a variable var1, and let me define it as a string. Okay. And in the set variable, I'll be just taking the current iteration, right, and I'll try to display. So as you know, item it represents the current iteration, current item. So let me try to debug this. Yeah, instead of this, we will create a parameter here. So param1, and we will make it as array, because it always accepts the array, right? So we should create an array basically. That is the reason it is not accepting if you are giving just like that, and it is throwing an error. So now it is a proper array, and if you see, it is, we can directly add this array, which is a parameter. Okay. And now let us try to debug it. And it is getting failed. So the reason we will see here cannot be initialized, var1 of a type string cannot be initialized or updated to the integer. So the reason is the value that we are setting is actually the integer value, right? So we have to convert it to the string value. So for that, you can see the conversion function. So you can just give the string conversion here to make this item from integer to string. So these are the learnings that we will be, we will go as we learn, right? So the different videos so that we will understand the things in great detail. So as you can see now, so the value 1 is coming in the set variable. So the most important thing to observe here is for each loop is executed one time, but inside set variable, there is only one set variable inside, right? But as you can see, there is 3 executions. The reason is the parameter that what we are passing is of array, which is the 3 elements. So that's the reason it has executed 3 times, and each execution you can see 1, 2 and 3. It has executed 1, 2, 3 in a sequential. So if you make it a parallel, right, so it doesn't guarantee the execution in the order. Basically it might be like a 3 to 1 or 1, 1, 2, 3 or something like that. So it doesn't guarantee that like it will execute in a sequential way. And parallelly, you can think of giving the arrays in terms of say like single quote separated file1.csv, and another one I can give, which is file2.csv. So now in this case, I can go ahead and remove this string conversion. You know the reason, because this is already a string. The value which I am passing is already a string, so I no need to kind of convert that to string now. Should be a valid array. Okay. So I think there is some syntax error that we have made here. Okay. Sorry, it should be a double quotes. Small correction here. It should not be a single quote. It should be a double quote. Yeah. So now let's try to debug it. Yeah. As you can see, the set variable has executed 2 times. And you can see first time file1 and second time it is showing the file2. And quick correction here, it is not a single quotes. We should be able to use this double quotes so that it will consider it as a valid array. So now that I think you understood what is the basics of ForEach activity, like quick summary, like ForEach will accept only the arrays actually. So it can be array of integer or it can be array of strings. If it is strings, double quotes separated values which are separated by comma. So as you can see, this type is important. You need to select the array here. So if you are selecting it as a string or something, and you can see here, it actually shows it does not match the field of items. It is telling it is not an array, right? So hope this is clear now. So let us quickly jump to the little more complex scenario where we can call it as a real-time scenario, right? So now we will not pass the arrays as a parameter. We will dynamically pass the array elements using get metadata. So as you can see, the input of get metadata. So we have created a dataset and link services on top of a blob storage. If you are not sure how to create a dataset and link services, I would recommend you to go and watch the previous videos in the same series where we have clearly explained how to create a dataset and link services. So now, as you can see, this is a dataset which is our source created on the blob storage. So the blob storage is just if you can go through the dataset, right? It is just a simple dataset where we are creating just a container name we are giving, and we are not giving any file name, any directory name, right? So coming back to the pipeline, so the intention here is to list all the child items in this container, directly in this container. Okay, so you can give the folder also, so folder and subfolder. I'm just interested to know all the child items within the container. So let me switch back to this container quickly and see what are the files available in this container. So this is a container, and what I'm expecting is I'm expecting to take all these 3 CSV files and like copy into the output folder. Okay, so currently there is some output folders, like there are some files. Let me delete them and make this output as empty. So currently you see there is no output folder in this blob container, right? And this is my get metadata. So get metadata, let us understand what it exactly doing, right? So get metadata will get all the files and folder also. Like if you see, the type is folder and the file name is 1, and file name is customer1 sales, and one more is customer.csv. So there are 3 files, right? As you can see, the blob storage. So all these 3 files have to be copied to the like another sink, right? So before copying, first what we did is we just got all the files from the get metadata, and the most important thing here is to enable this child item so that you can use this child item as the output. So it is giving all the child items here, right? So this is a child item. As you can see, it is an array. Okay, and this array itself I am passing as a for each parameter, get metadata dot output dot child items. And when I do that, it will iterate through all these arrays, all the elements in this array of child item one by one. So first it will take customer, and next customer v1, next sales, and next this one. So since I'm using for each, it will go inside for each, and I'm using a copy activity here. So I'm using a regex here, as you can see, star.csv. That is the reason it won't consider the folder. It considers only these 3 files for the copying. And then you can go to the sink, and in the sink I'm just giving the, I can if you go to the data set, right, sync data set, the same container I'm using, but I'm using output folder. That means I want to create one more output folder here and copy all these files, three files in that output container, right? So now coming back, I'll try to execute this. So just a quick, can you guess how many times the for each will execute? Yeah, definitely it will execute three times because we have three kind of CSV files within this container, right? If I refresh it, yes, the copy activity is executed four times actually, right? But the thing is, it will not copy this particular folder, right? Because it is not the CSV. Let us refresh it, and if you go inside output, it has just copied all the three CSV files here. Okay, and the output you can see there are four elements and four copy activities, but actually only the three are eligible to be copied because three are CSV files. So what it has done is it has created an output folder and copied all the files into it. So this is a power of ForEach, right? You can iterate anything over this. So you can previously simple example we have seen where we have passed the array manually, and here we are seeing we are passing the output of the get metadata. Okay, you can pretty much what you can also do is you can pass the, like directly you can pass the values of the files. Suppose here in the parameters, right, you can create a parameter where you say I need CSV, sorry, like customer1.csv, customers.csv, only these two files, right? Create a parameter of that, okay, and then give the array here, and then as we have given the format, right, so square braces and double quotes value with the comma separated, give these file names, and the same parameter whatever you are giving here, param1, so has to be used in the settings of this array, setting of this for loop, right? And then in the copy activity you have to come and so now we have created a data set on top of the only the folder, right? You have to create on the file name basically. You can create a file here and just add a dynamic content file here, and in the sink also same thing, right? You can add the dynamic content and coming back, so it will give the file name here. Inside file name you just need to give the current item, both source and sink. So basically what it does is it copies only the files that you have mentioned in the parameter here. In the parameter, whatever files you are mentioning, it will iterate only those two files and it will copy only those two files. Right? So hope you are able to understand the power of for each loop. It is very similar to how you are using in a programming language, but here in Data Factory, it is just like activity. There is no coding required for that. Hope it was useful. Thanks for watching.